tonight's regular city council meeting, which we opened at about 6:07. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Berry?
Yes. Present.
Councilman Acosta?
Present.
Councilman Figueroa?
Present.
Councilwoman Fonseca?
Present.
Councilman Lozay?
Present.
Councilwoman Rivera?
Present.
Councilman Solano?
Present.
We have quorum present.
Thank you. Will all please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lorraine Savard?
Lorraine Savard, 76 Emmett Street, Seneca Falls.
Good evening.
Good evening. I have a comment about our city. I have nothing against putting our best foot forward. Trees planted, fruit trees, parks created, streets look very nice. But I question at what expense. Number one, expense is the taxpayer. And number two, I recently read an editorial in the Journal that our pension system is only 24% funded. I thought the bankruptcy was supposed to fix that. There was, they were going to tell us how to remediate this. No, we still have a liability of, what, $24 million in our pension fund? That should be a priority. Absolutely, positively, number one. And then some relief to the taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine.
Mayor's Youth Council. Kyle Cornell?
Hello. We are the Mayor's Youth Council. We are the Mayor's Youth Council from Calca Middle School, and these are our members. My name is Desiree Delgado Pedrosa, and I live on 72 Headley Avenue.
I am Jonathan Almeida, and I live on 138 Sylvan Street. I'm Marco Ramirez, and I live on 15 Sheridan Street. My name is Mike, and I live on 171 Illinois Street.
Hi, my name is Melody Tejeda, and I live on 108 Cleveland Street.
We are here to tell you about our social project. We will be making care packages for homeless students attending the schools in Central Falls. These care packages will be delivered to the social workers located at each school. That way, the social workers can deliver the packages in privacy. Our goal is to make 100 packages to start.
In order to make this happen, we hope to get donations and support from the City Council and the community. We are also planning a fundraising event to take place at Calca Middle School. The fundraiser consists of a movie night. We will sell snacks during the movies and conduct activities like slide making before the showing. The proposed date for the fundraising event will be June 1st. We have flyers here.
your time. If you would like to know about our project or fundraiser, please contact our advisor, Marlene Jaquette at jaquettem@csschools.net. Again, thank you and good night.
Thank you, and keep up your great work. Thank you.
Edna Poon.
Edna Poon, 68 Notre Dame Street. I think my biggest concern is, I was at the meeting when you went over the audit, and I want to thank the council for allowing discussion from the audience. I think it was good. I think it's healthy to have discussion. My concern is there were questions that were asked. The question is, what are the answers? You know, I could come here and I can voice my opinions and ask the questions, but I never get any feedback as to what the answers are. One of which is one big one is what's owed the state of Rhode Island. Lenny was here and he told me with a wink and a handshake he had some kind of a deal. You know, my question is, okay, what kind of a deal was that? I looked at the audit, and the audit still is saying it's like $3 million, and it's been going up instead of going down. And if you look at past audits, nothing seems to be going down, it seems to be going up. And I know they've talked about paying $600,000 and $600,000, but it's got to be reflected somewhere. You know, where did that money go? You know, what was it on? If it's bringing that amount down, then it should be there. But you can't say it's paid off if you got an audit that's saying you owe it, unless you go back and correct the audit and put the right figures in. The other is, my concern was the $700,000 plus deficit on the part of 15 departments. The chief's here, I'll congratulate him publicly. I mean, he was one of 2, I think, out of 17 departments that had a surplus. So I commend you, Chief, and I know that's a difficult job with the overtime and the way you work. And I know in the past, those have been over the place, so you've done a really good job there, so I commend you. But the question is, why did we have a $700,000 overage when we had someone here, put here by the state, to watch what we're doing and what we're spending? Now, we're supposed to have had someone who was keeping close tabs on what we're doing. Evidently, that did not happen. I mean, I'm saying it did not happen, and that's what it appears to me. The other is the pensions, and I agree with Lorraine. You know, we should be taking care of putting the money into those pensions. We've had police and fire who've worked many years, and when they get to the point where they're going to retire and they count on having that money, the rug was pulled out from under them. That is one thing we should be taking care of and should have taken care of. We've had surplus the last several years here at the city, yet we haven't really addressed that problem with the pensions. The city pensions, I think, in good shape from what I can see, but the police and fire is not. The other area I looked at was the capital expenditures. I looked at what was spent and what was proposed in the budget. And what we spent far exceeded whatever was proposed in the budgets the last few years. So the question comes as, what are we doing this year? You know, we seem to be over budgeting monies and overtaxing people so that we have a whole surplus, so that if we have the loss of $700,000 here, it doesn't look like we have a loss because of the fact that we overtaxed the people. We took in more tax dollars than what we should have. You know, in 2017, the surplus of $700,000 left us with a surplus, the deficit of $700 left us with a surplus of $900,000. That means we collected more taxes than we should have. Or we didn't budget properly, one of the two. Something's wrong, it's not in kilter. You know, but if we had a $700,000 gain rather than that loss, we would be close to $2 million surplus. And that goes for the last several years. If you really go back and you look at the audits and how they're done, can't change any of that. That's done. My big concern is you're going to be looking at a budget this coming year. And you should, I would hope that you understand the figures that you're looking at and what we're spending. I mean, and taking into consideration the last few budgets we've had and how the figures are, that we should take a good look at what we're gonna pass this coming year. And you're responsible, this is your budget this year. You know, and I mean, it's a shame that we're taxing people, the amount of money we're taxing people, when we have a $700,000 deficit, and we still end up with a surplus. So, we're taking too much money from the people. And I think the capital accounts need to be looked at. So I thank you for your time, and I really thank you for the opportunity at the Austin meeting to be able to talk, but I would like to have some answers, not just come out here and make the comments and point out some of the problems that are in this budget, but also to find out what's the answers and what's the solution. So I thank you.
Thank you for your, thank you.
Virginia Carter.
Good evening.
Good evening, Bernie.
My name is Vernia Carter. I live at 52 Grove Street. I am a voting member of this community. I'm here to address the behavior of the council at the April 9th meeting. I want to thank Councilman Salerno, President Councilman Ferry, and Councilwoman Fonseca for calling me, apologizing, and Councilman Ferry also had the youth come over that Wednesday after the council meeting. Public hearing, public speaking means that anybody can get up here and speak. I watched the video. I got calls because I was out of the state. I watched the video, couldn't believe it, watched it again, and then watched other videos of the city council. It's bad enough how my youth were treated, but the worst part about this is the same complaints are made month after month after month. As someone that voted for people here, someone that pays taxes to this community, I'm really concerned that how this body here looks when other communities look at us. It just seems that there's no control here. The same thing every month, amendment to meetings, things like that. And all fairness to the city clerk, can she do a good job writing the minutes down if there's always interruptions? She can't hear, and it's unfair. And we need to really think about this. People are going to be running for office, and it's not about your agenda, it's my agenda. It's everybody here that votes for you to be here. And we really need to look at the example we're setting for our youth and what you said you would do when you were sworn in to sit there. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Bernie. Thank you.
No one else has signed up for public comment?
Okay, that takes us to the minutes which you're going to explain. Yeah.
You want to do it again? Can we do it again so we can...
You want to explain
Yeah,
it?
we'll just...
They all have
We'll do
them?
it later. So we can
Minutes?
keep going and then we'll continue.
They all have them?
If we could just get, well, can we address it at the end? Just
Yeah,
move it to
okay.
the end of the
Yeah.
agenda and then we'll come back to it?
Mr. Chairman, can I
So
make
we
a
just-
motion, we defer the minutes until next meeting? Would that be easier?
We have a motion, yeah, we have a motion by Councilman Zia, second by Councilwoman Fonseca, to defer the minutes till next meeting. You want to give a brief?
No, fine.
Okay. Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Nays? Ayes have it. Hearing none, seeing none.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Executive communications. We have consideration of appointments by Mary Guziosa. And we have two, first one is Mr. Cornelius Floyd of 44 Portland Street to the Central Falls Housing Authority. His term is to expire March 31st, 2023. Mr. Flynn is here.
I think Mr. Flynn is here.
Good evening, council members.
Good evening. I think your resume speaks for itself as far as I'm concerned. I've known you for a number of years, but also the resume you have, you've been involved with the housing for a number of years, and it's basically just a renewal. Anyone have any questions of Mr. Flynn?
Can I?
Sure.
Yeah. Hi, Mr. Flynn. You've been on the Housing Authority since 2008.
That is correct.
Could you just give us a little update on where the Housing Authority stands and what future projects do you have going on that we should know about?
Well, the last, Son, can you hear me?
You can pick it up.
Over the last 8 years, we've been a high performer both in CMAP and the FODs, which is it's quite terrific when you look around the country at the other housing authorities. I'd like to pay tribute to our executive director and also the management team for the hard work they've done to accomplish that through the HUD people, both in Boston and Washington. As far as the housing authority in Central Falls, we have our normal 5-year program of repairing boilers and roofs and installing new lightings and also new cabinets and fixing up the apartments as we go along. And that is all, that is something that is ongoing and will be ongoing from year to year, after 5 year after 5 year after 5 year. And we're on schedule, we're on budget, and we are doing quite well. And I'm proud to say that I work with Central Falls Housing. I'm on a number of boards, including the National Committees Board, and I hear the stories from around the country, from New York to Chicago and California, and we have really excelled, and people look forward to hearing the news that we accomplished over the last 10 years. And it gives me great thrill to stand before you tonight and tell you how well we are received. And going forward, I know that will be the case. If there's anything else I can impart to you, I'd be more than happy to.
I just have I have a concern at the Flory Manor. I do have a family member who lives there. There seems to be a tremendous parking problem, especially with individuals who have nursing aides that come in. There is no parking for them. They are getting tagged and notices going out. Individual companies are being, individuals who were assigned to that building canceling because they just can't find parking, and especially in wintertime they drive around and around. Is there anything that the Housing Authority is going to do to help alleviate the parking problem for not the residents, because they all have assigned parking, but
Right.
also for the guests and service people who come in to the building?
We do have a certain number of parking spots for visitors. I know there's not a lot. I myself find myself going around in circles before a board meeting trying to find a place to park. So I can empathize with your concern and the concerns of your family members and those that do come in, looking to do the work that we need done on a daily basis. But we do have a meeting coming up on Wednesday, and I will see that that is noted in our agenda.
I would hope that if there's any way of acquiring any additional space in the area for parking, something that the authority consider.
Okay, I'll certainly have them look into it. Appreciate your interest.
Anyone else? Hearing none, seeing none?
Motion.
Motion approved. We have a
Motion
motion by Councilman
Second.
Solano, seconded by Councilman Fonseca and Councilman Lazier. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Nays? Hearing none, seeing none? Best of luck.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And thank you, Council, for your support, and I hope I can make Central Falls proud for all of you.
Thank you.
The next appointment is Ms. Gloria Rubio of 128 School Street. She's being appointed to the Board of Appeals. Her term is to expire May 7, 2021. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. I have read the resume. I have no questions. Anyone?
Can I ask, I don't remember, have you been on other boards in the city?
Yes.
The Charter Review Commission?
Correct.
Any other boards?
No.
Okay, this is your first time serving on the Board of Appeals
Correct. Yes.
with Mr. Ratty.
Patty.
Batty, excuse me. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Move to approve.
That motion by Councilman Fonseca to approve, seconded by Councilman Rivera, Councilman Solano, and Councilman Figueroa. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Nays? Hearing none, seeing none, ayes have it. Congratulations and best of luck.
Congratulations, Gloria.
Thank you. I hope that with my experience of 16 years doing replacement calls and working on the insurance industry, I can help, housing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. That would be.
So we're going to move a little bit out of order just to accommodate the businesses that are here. So page 4 out of 5. Item. We have 2 of these actually. Yeah. So this is the City Council sitting as a Board of License Commissioners. And the first one is the federal license for Walter Bolden, Road Dogs. Information in the packet.
Can you just explain where you're moving to for everyone? Where are we?
Page 4 of 5. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm reading up mine. Sorry, I don't have a minute. I'm sorry. Page 3, top of page 3.
Item number
It's on the
17.
licenses,
Yes, go on.
Roman numeral 17. Is he here?
I want to decline this application.
What?
Because I have you're here. Want to see it?
Would you like to speak to it? All right. So we have two separate.
We get a recommendation.
Regarding the track. This one.
We have a motion on the floor to deny the application of the state license.
This
We
one.
have a second by Councilwoman Rivera.
This one is to
Under discussion.
flavored tobacco.
Can we get a comment from the chief?
Please, so is that, please.
Just put your name there, and when it comes up on the agenda, I'll call you.
I would have to, I'd like to refrain from
How about one or two? Agendas are right here, absolutely.
personnel matters, I guess is the best way to put it, but if there is an objection, I'm not sure if the police department's aware of this applicant is
All right, what are you here for?
objection, but I would refrain from,
Gotcha. So it's up to you. If you want to speak, we have two items that they're going to talk about.
just address the application.
Yeah,
Right.
one is
Rather
that
than
right now,
anything else.
anyone caught in violation of semi-flavored
Colonel Jason Johnson, police chief. I personally do not have any familiarity with Mr. Bolden. I'm aware of his, sorry, usually I'm not questioning my,
Boys behind. Been around here.
I have no
This one is
familiarity with Mr. Bolden. I'm aware of his record that's still active, has not been expunged, and is a concern with the city. I have no other further information.
Did I give you an check? Okay.
Well, basically with that is, anybody else have any comments? I do. Captain, sure.
So, research on folks who have been arrested and then released shows that the strongest predictor of recidivism is unemployment. Right? We ran a pilot program in the early 90s where they gave a subsample of people who were recently released from prison a monthly stipend and just followed people for a year. The stipend was less of a predictor of whether or not the person will or won't get rearrested than actually being employed. And so, if we want to reincorporate people into society, I don't think that closing the channels for their employment is going to help them reincorporate in society. Now, if we want to have a conversation about why we're going to deny the application, I think we have to be honest with ourselves and saying, like, this is, frankly, potentially discriminatory. to say that because someone has a criminal record, we're not going to give them a license to operate. And if we're fine with that, then that's okay. But we have to talk about that.
Anyone else? Marie?
I wish he was here because I have a few questions for him, and that would most likely change my decision. But if he's not here, we can ask him any questions. And I do have concerns. I agree, everybody has, and everybody could change, everybody deserves an opportunity. But I have questions for him, so we can table it and ask him to come in, or we're gonna make a decision tonight.
With that, we could table, you'd have to withdraw your first and whoever second, or vice versa.
I go withdraw my motion.
Councilwoman Fonseca is withdrawing her motion, and Councilwoman Rivera is withdrawing her second. With that, looking for a motion to table.
Move to table to next meeting.
Second. A motion by Councilwoman Fonseca to table, seconded by Councilman Costa. And Councilman is there to table said item for the gentleman to appear at next council meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Nays? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Next item is Class A restaurant on the Gonzales, and it's Family Coffee.
Hi, how are you?
Take it right now.
Good evening, everyone.
It's called the Evangeline.
Yes, it's my husband's nickname.
I'm checking because if anybody wants Seinfeld, of Evangeline Industries, Kevin would come up. Anyway, it's on Broad Street, right?
Yes, it is.
Whereabouts on Broad is that? What is on the other side?
It's on the right-hand side where Taco Mix used to be.
Okay,
Like
yeah.
across from
Okay.
Casanova.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about the business?
We're in the process, hoping to open by the end of this month. And it's going to be Cambodian style restaurant, also an American Spanish. So it's going to be a mix, but the main dish is going to be Cambodian food.
Pastel?
Pastel, cachupa, the homemade food, there's not a lot around here. So my husband moved here about 8 months ago. We purchased a home, and we want to expand here in the city, also to expand more, open more restaurants and bars too. And then we're hoping to get the license for the liquor so we can open that bar also.
Anyone, any further questions?
Mr. Chairman, just a question. The clerk, is this a brand new license or are they transferring the existing license there?
It's a brand new license.
So any of the existing licenses are no longer going to be in effect?
It's a brand new license.
It's on the application, I believe.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the license.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Lazare, second by Councilman Fonseca to approve the license. Any further questions?
Just a quick question about, she said it's going to be food, but you're looking forward in the future to get a liquor license?
Liquor license, yes. We're working with the city to get the liquor license.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Nays? Hearing none, seeing none, ayes have it. Best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Very welcome. Jump back.
For communications, back to executive communications, or on the first page, mayor proclamations, you have 3 for your receipt. Do you read them all?
Just a second, yeah.
Declaring May 10th, 2018 as World Lupus Day, declaring June 2018 as Immigrant Heritage Month, and declaring May 30th as Father Henry Hayward Day.
A motion to approve collectively.
Motion to approve collectively.
A motion by Councilman Costa, seconded by Councilman Solano to approve the mayor's proclamations collectively. Any further discussion? Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just a point of order. The mayor's proclamations are not a matter for the city. He has to solicit it. It's not a matter for the city to approve his proclamation, so it's not a matter of us
We're
approving
looking
them
for
or denying
accept,
them.
we'll accept and place on file. How's that?
I would ask the solicitor for what action to take.
I think we can accept and place on file, correct, Mr. Solicitor?
You may either accept or receive it.
All those in favor of accepting and receiving?
Aye.
Signify by saying aye. Chair votes aye, nays, ayes have it. Next item.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask to move out of order? Mr. Batty has been here all day. We do have a
Like everybody else.
abatement list. If we could act on that so we can let him go home.
Sure, I have no problem. That'd be a seven, Roman numeral
Yeah,
seven.
we're back to page 3, bottom of page 3, or 2, I'm sorry, bottom of page 2, new business, consideration of tax abatement submitted by the tax assessor.
You haven't punched out yet, have you?
Thank you, Mr. Lozay, I appreciate that, not that everybody else in the building.
He wants you to rest up
It's not-
because he'll be here at 7 tomorrow to see you.
Okay, you should have in your, again, Bob Batty, tax assessor. So you should have in your packet the, my department's recommendations for abatements for this month. You haven't seen me in a couple of months, so I've saved up. All of the recommended abatements are motor vehicles except a small clerical error on personal property. There should be explained within your packet. I am here to answer any questions you might have.
And they're all motor vehicle, I noticed.
All motor vehicle except for one small personal property account.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept collectively, approve collectively.
Second. A motion by Councilman Vier to approve the abatement collectively, seconded by Councilwoman Fonseca and Councilman Figueroa. Any discussion on the abatements? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor of approving collectively signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Nays? Hearing none, seeing none, ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
How your day is
You
going?
guys are the best.
Next item is Department Financial Reports, going back to the beginning. I have a question on the formatting.
Irene? Thank you. I have a question from Councilwoman.
Hello. How are you? So I just have a quick question on the formatting. So it's kind of difficult to read. So like, you know, the top of this has that on top. It would be good to have that on all the pages. Because then I'm looking at the page and I don't know what's what. You get it?
I mark pages, but I'm trying to make it more visible. But because they're for the stake itself, I don't have any ideas. I will adjust.
No, I'm just saying, just add the titles on all the pages.
On each
the heading.
Yeah, absolutely. This one.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
I don't know if Councilwoman Fonseca's back. Mr. Lozay?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I don't want to reiterate what I've said in the past meetings, for further documentation on the reports and the comparison of what the current budget, the total budget, and what's remaining. I request that again. I have met with the Deputy Finance Director in meeting again, and she has been very helpful in providing information and documentation, so I will meet with her privately to get further information on finances. I would ask that we establish finance committees and meet regarding this current financial budget to go over questions on the current operation and where we stand before we look into and act on the budget for fiscal year 19. I also have, I see the fire chief is not here. I had a question of him, but I have also asked the police chief to meet, and I will meet with him privately on certain other questions I have. I did have a question of the code enforcement, but Elaine is not here. So I will have to defer those and hope they would come to further meetings, and that all of the reports reflect the audited budget amount, the current operating budget, budgeted amount, the to-date total, and the monthly, and what the variance is, so that we can follow along on each of the departmental budgets. I make that again as a request, Mr. Chairman, for the next operational budget submission to the council at the next meeting. But I also would like the council to meet in Finance Committee to discuss this operating budget, to again hold another meeting with the auditors, and then to schedule Finance Committee meetings to look over the fiscal 19 operating budget. I only have one other, I don't have any further comments on the departmental finance reports regarding requesting that information, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you. Just two quick things. On page one, on the monthly revenue summary, I believe the last column is actually not labeled properly or in reverse. So instead of percent uncollected, I think it's actually reporting the percent collected, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Because, say on the total tax revenue, if we're missing 1.658 million, then really that means we're missing 10.86, right?
The same thing for the budget, the entire budget's like that.
So, yeah, that was small, but I was, at first I thought I was misreading. And then the second thing, we did get the capital fund report today. I was wondering if in future ones, this is great, it's very detailed, it has the dates and the description of the expenditures, but if we could just report the amount left in the account, because I know we've spent $987,000, I just don't know exactly how much is left in the capital fund.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Also going back to capital improvement, I like that it's broken up into public works planning, but in addition to Acasa's comment, could we have like public works all in one section? So it's that maybe like the heading public works and what's been budgeted for that department and what's left over. So it's very
in
clear.
the summary in the bottom, you want to see what was budgeted and how much they spent. We do exactly expense report.
Right. Right.
I asked the same thing.
I know, but just like you can't tell what's left in plan. I don't even know what's in there.
Anyone else? Thank you, Irene. Appreciate it.
Could we have a new copy of both? Especially like for the budget, all the breakdowns for what's the breakdown for percentage remaining. Like if you look at professional development and training under executive,
yeah,
it's budgeted for 5,000, we spent 57.
Right.
So it's saying percent remaining is 114% remaining.
Yeah, it's gonna be this.
Yeah. So before the next council meeting, can we have that?
Would you like to receive it by?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Not email.
You'll get it shortly.
I have one more comment. Okay. And then for the audit, so the accounting audit and other professional, Can you kind of speak to that line, because I don't know. What's, the 187 is what's been spent? That's a huge jump from 68,000.
One of those reasons because it took longer. Another reason, we spent some funds for contractors who were helping me to present reporting for the audit.
So because we didn't hire a finance director, now the taxpayers have to pay more, essentially. Because that could have been a finance director stay in some. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just, can I met with Irene earlier, but if she could state, many people have asked that their auto rebate have not been received as of yet. You'll inform me what's happened. Could you let the council and the public know on what to expect with the rebates for their overpayments on the automobile tax?
All right, last week, on Friday, we mailed out most of refunds. I would say 45% of refunds were mailed at that week, last week. So after that, I can review and see what is left. Ideally, nothing's supposed to be left, but I'm going to review again all credit balances in the database. And we run a report, and we're going to clean that. There should be really nothing, but I assume if something was left behind, like it could be something missed or something was put aside, with a human error, let's say, a mistake, it's going to be mailed out next week. So we're going to review again the database next week. But everything, I assume, was mailed out last week. If someone didn't receive it, because people are moving from place to place, and they usually never notify tax office about their new addresses. Sometimes we have refunds mailed back to us, return mail. So we're going to keep it we're supposed to keep it in accordance with Rhode Island general law, unclaimed property. But we're going to keep it, and people should still come and claim to us. But we're not going to mail it again because addresses change.
Thank you, Ed. Anything else? Looking for a motion to accept the department financial reports collectively.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Motion by Councilman Ziz, second by Councilman Figueroa. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Chair votes aye. Nays? Hearing none, seeing none. Aye. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Scheduled bills. The first one is ordinance amending chapter 20, fire prevention and protection, article 3, fire alarm systems, this second reading.
Is there anyone in the public wishing to speak on this particular hearing? Fire prevention protection is basically adjusted fees. There's a one-time fee if you have a private fire alarm system in your home.
Clarification, not a one-time, it's annual.
Yeah, one time.
Yeah, annual fee is
Right.
No, I'm set up with what ones?
Please, no one. And the difference is, if you read closely, the fire department don't have to continually service it. If it's a private, if it's a home, it's a private company that installs it. And you are correct that it's an annual fee. But it's an annual fee. But again, if you read collectively, in the past, I guess the fire department has been constantly servicing these things, providing wires, et cetera, that's all been struck from the order.
And this is only for the ones that are connected to the fire department, because my home is fire code,
Right.
but it doesn't
Right,
go directly.
exactly, that is correct. That is correct.
Mr. Chairman, I don't see any fine in here, but Mr. Chairman, this also adds a nuisance fee for the first time, a nuisance service fee of $100 after 3 false alarms.
Right.
Is that correct?
Which I think is fair. Mike isn't here, Mike Andrews isn't here this time, he's been here the previous meeting, so Mike would have all the answers, but if you looked at that closely, it's fairly simple, and it strikes a lot of stuff out that the fire department was responsible for. Again, Mike isn't here, hopefully you studied it. I assume it passed muster with legal.
Yes.
Looking for a motion.
I got a question.
And again, I'm not, I introduced it. Yeah, go ahead, Bill. I read it, hopefully I can answer the question.
Yeah, this is
Mike
amazing
Andrews.
for the people that directly connected to the fire department.
Right.
But those that are not connected to the fire department, it's loud enough to anybody in anywhere call the fire department because it's around 10 times. What happened with that?
Sure, how many?
This doesn't apply to them.
No,
No, it doesn't, no, it doesn't, right, exactly. Like Maria said, she should have business and the alarm obviously would be not.
No problem.
Yeah.
Motion to approve the ordinance amending chapter 20 on fire prevention and protection, article 3, fire alarm system.
Second.
There's a motion by Councilman Acosta to approve, second by Councilman Solano. Again, any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Councilman Third,
Yes.
Councilman Acosta,
Yes.
Councilman Figueroa,
Yes.
Councilwoman Fonseca,
Yes.
Councilman Lozay,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rivera,
Yes.
Councilman Solano.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Next item is ordinance amending chapter 40, the Central Falls Redevelopment Agency redevelopment area and the redevelopment plan, second reading as well.
Okay, is Peter here?
Yes, I'm gonna calm down right now, sorry.
But next item will go back to Peter.
If you want to, then come back on. I want to do this one first.
Well, where is he? I mean,
He's right upstairs.
in town or-
He'll be down in 10 seconds. Hey, come down on the Central Falls Redevelopment Agency plan. Quickly. Sorry about that.
May I make a motion to,
He's supposed to be coming, correct?
Yeah, he'll be here in 10 seconds. He's upstairs.
Elevator
the
upstairs.
special counsel license, Mr. Chairman? It's a renewal.
Right. We'll give them decency then.
I hear him. All right, you're on.
Good evening, Rachel. We have now come to your redevelopment agency. Ordinance. Amendment. Any questions? Actually, we should look for a motion and then we can discuss it with Peter if there's any questions.
I move to approve.
Have a motion by Councilman Fonseca. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Figueroa. Under discussion. So basically, it's allowing the redevelopment agency to acquire properties that have been abandoned, demolished, tough shape, the whole nine yards.
So is it quite the city to acquire those properties, and that's going to be a pricing, how that will be, how the city will acquire those properties?
Good evening, Peter Friedrichs, Director of Planning and Economic Development for the City of Central Falls. And this evening is Director of the Central Falls Redevelopment Agency. So the ordinance that's in front of the council this evening for second passage extends the redevelopment plan and amends it for an additional, the exact number,
21.
There's 12 properties. And what that does is it grants the redevelopment agency its full powers on those 12 properties. Our intent is to acquire those properties and facilitate redevelopment of those properties for improved use.
So you say through a grant? You say we acquired the those properties?
So there's redevelopment agency can acquire the properties through negotiation with the property owner, through working with the city to collect back taxes. They can exercise eminent domain if granted power through the redevelopment plan. There's various options available to them.
Hi, Peter. So I'm looking on page 5 and 6. So for the 21 properties listed there, do we have a plan for those properties? Like timeline plan? How the plan is to demolish?
So 606 Dexter Street is currently owned by the city, and I'm working on an RFP to identify a developer for that property for mixed use neighborhood retail with residential above the Feinstein School on Broad Street. We've been in talks with Tayo to redevelop that property. There's been a lot of uses proposed. I think the most promising is residential. 229 Washington Street is already owned by the redevelopment agency. We're under contract with that property with a developer who's also under contract with Clarkwood Street. Those are going to be home ownership residential housing.
Is it number 20? Which one are you referring to? Which one are you referring to?
Correct, number 20.
Number 20. And is it, does the 229, it says vacant in a dilapidated state. That's just a vacant property, isn't it?
Correct.
Land. And is to go directly back from Washington Street to Hood? Is that one lot or are they two separate?
Two separate lots.
And is Hood Street on here or this?
Hood Street was previously
number 2
approved.
It's number 2.
Okay.
Number 2.
And so you're looking to, you have somebody's interested on both lots? Or
Correct.
On both?
Both.
I was contacted by a private group who were interested in, and it was the church from Washington Street. Have they contacted you?
Which church?
St. Ephraim's Syriac
I have not
Orthodox.
spoken with them. I'd be happy to.
Okay. In number 19, is that a correction? It's 0 Hadwin? We
So
have listed.
typically in Central Falls, we don't number our vacant lots. So a lot of the vacant lots have a street number of 0. I haven't been assigned street addresses.
But all addresses are assigned by the assessor.
Correct.
There's an assessor's street address.
Councilman, I can speak to number 18 and 19. That is a project the law department has been involved in a little bit. It is a sawtooth. The Hadwin Street property is a sawtooth industrial building that has, you may recall, on 1304 High Street, the city was trying to turn that dilapidated field into a soccer field, and part of the challenge was the people that owned the field were in a dispute amongst themselves as to who owned it. So we were able to use the redevelopment agency to purchase the lot, and we are currently turning it into a soccer field. This property, we were working with a Central Falls manufacturing company who wanted to expand and buy that building and expand, but they were unable to buy it because of the people who may or may not own the building. They're in probate right now, so there's all these title issues. And so So one potential opportunity here is that the redevelopment agency can step in and help clear title so that the Central Falls manufacturer can move in and grow their business. And that's 064. It's a weird address for the building I'm having.
Anyone else? Councilman?
I have a question, but I want to withdraw my motion and put a caveat on it. Thank you.
Withdraw your motion to approve this ordinance?
Yeah.
Amendment to the ordinance. Who seconded it? Hugo and Franklin? Oh, you. Yes. I'll withdraw your second of Councilwoman Fonseca's motion.
So, in the ordinance, I also read that somewhere in here, 650,000 for all these properties.
11.1.
Page 7.
Page 7. That was my next question.
650. How? So, the reason why I withdrew my motion is because I actually want to see a plan for every single property that's listed, the 21 properties. I'd like to see what's going to be done with it, how much money each property is going to take, the timeline, if possible. And I don't know if council members want that too, but I think it's unrealistic for 650,000 for all those properties to be rehabbed. You could spend 650 on one of those properties easily.
So, Councilwoman, to finish answering your previous question about the plans for each individual property, the 6 remaining properties on Sylvian Street, that's part of the Better Block Initiative on Sylvian Street. Those are the 6 problem properties that we've identified on that street. There's also 2 properties that the redevelopment agency and the city have a tax interest in, 147 Sylvian Street and 155 Washington Street. And our plan for those properties is to seek grant funding to rehabilitate those properties. As part of the housing bond that was passed by voters around the state last year, there's $10 million that have been made available for blight remediation around the state. And our intent is to apply for funding through that program to rehabilitate those homes. Also look at that same bond as a funding opportunity for 606 Dexter and the Old Feinstein School. It's a very good point about the possibility of funds being fully utilized on one property. To give you an example, the redevelopment agency's interest in 229 Washington and 12 foot is about $75,000, and we're hoping to recoup those funds in the sale of the properties. Again, we're also using grant funds for some of the larger properties like Hadley Street, Pennsylvania. Those would require private participation. So we think that, with these 21 properties, with the funds that have already been allocated to the agency, that we can work within that, pursue grant dollars, and work with private partners to make the redevelopment plan happen.
I'd just like to see that before, because I think often what happens is we put a plan ahead, but we don't think through what it takes to execute the plan. So for me, this is the second reading and 12 properties were added to it. This is the final reading. So if this passes, it's ordinance. So we added 12 properties from last meeting, correct? No. No? The underline?
No. The first 9 properties were
Why are they highlighted?
Early 2007.
Those are the ones that were added.
Added when?
In this, when it was submitted.
Okay.
Original as an introduction.
Yeah, so I would like a plan still for each property. And I don't know what you guys want, but I would like a plan before we make this law.
Peter can probably speak a little bit more on it, but this is authorization for the redevelopment agency to work to figure out what that plan is going to be. They need this authorization in order to work with the business owner to figure out a purchase price, to sort of figure out what that plan is going to be. It basically opens up a lot of different tools that are available. And so Peter can give you sort of a general view of what we would like to see, but all of that is going to become a reality when they start working with, different people involved with the property.
So then why
is that correct, Peter?
Why assign a number to it? Why put that $650,000 to it if we don't even?
There's Council, that number, I believe, was in the underlying ordinance that was passed a year or two ago. And it was because there's a Supreme Court decision called Tidewater Realty, which requires redevelopment agencies to have 10 different things in place in their redevelopment plan ordinance, or a court will overrule it if the agency takes action on a property, and that there has to be an amount of money in their budget. So I believe at that time, correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, the time that original ordinance was passed, that was the amount of money you had in your redevelopment agency budget. You probably don't have that money still, but at that time, that was what was in your budget.
So what money is left? It was 664 that was passed, right? How much money is left over? Because we don't get a report on that either.
The redevelopment agency approved their budget for the coming fiscal year last week. My intent is to present that to the council as required by state law during my annual presentation in the next couple of weeks. I believe that our budget was in the neighborhood of $325,000 for next year proposed.
But for 18, what was spent?
Maybe $75,000.
Out of the 664? So why do we need more money allocated there?
We're not asking for any additional money.
So what's going to happen with that other 500 and change thousand?
So there's about $325,000 remaining
Just that 75 was spent.
this year.
18.
Yeah.
Out of the
Last year there was about $300,000 spent.
Okay. So fiscal year 18, was it 300 and change or 75?
Fiscal year 17.
18.
Fiscal year 18 is about 75,000.
Right, out of 664,000 that was allocated, no?
They had already spent $300 grand in 2017.
Right.
So we spent $375 million.
But for this fiscal year 18, didn't we approve 664 to go on to?
We passed this before that.
Anyone else? Actually, we're still looking for.
Or what it was spent on.
Still looking for a motion for,
You mentioned that the Thai group is interested in some of these properties, right?
Tayo owns the old Feinstein School at Brown and Cross, which is part of the amended redevelopment plan under consideration.
So it's only that property?
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, I was present at the redevelopment agency meeting, and they did, they did submit on the record, they will be submitting to the City Council a resolution to authorize the director to negotiate a non-competitive bid for appraisal services for 656, 664 Dexter Street. That was done by the redevelopment agency. I believe that was your agency. There is also a resolution to adopt the budget, which we should be getting very shortly. The budget that they are going to be submitting, $5,000 in supplies, $10,000 in advertising, $76,080.50 in other professional services, capital expense of $250,000, which gives a total of $341,080.50 for this coming year. The carryover from prior year is $341,080.50, which is the same.
Correct.
So that means you'll have a total fund balance of 682.
No, that's revenues and expenditures.
You have these as revenues, and so we're looking at a $341,000 budget that they will be submitting to us. The question is, what is your current operating budget what is your available fund? That's what you're going to be submitting, $341,80.50. Do you know what your current operating budget is and what's remaining?
I don't have the exact figures in front of me, but it's approximately $420,000.
So 420, and if we added the 341, you're looking at plus subtract. But this is we have to provide this. All right, would you explain?
Can I explain this? Go ahead. Everyone's struggling here, it's communication issues. All right, so when we first passed this ordinance in 2016, as noted in page 1, appendix B, under section 1, intent and purpose, we approved the use of $650,000. Since 2016, approximately $365,000 have been spent. What is left is the numbers you're citing. So they're asking us to use what's left of the original funds that we had allocated.
To do what?
To finish, to do the same work they've been doing.
The 21 properties.
Right.
And $300,000.
Thank you, that was an excellent explanation.
So then again, how are you doing all that work for $300,000? I just want to see a plan.
Anyone else? Actually, what we have before us is to approve second passage and final passage of this particular amendment to the ordinance.
Mr. Chairman.
My only comment is, again, I think it's a win-win situation. If you look at the properties that are listed, if anybody's familiar with those particular properties, go down Sylvian Street, for example. This is a stop, I guess, is basically the easiest way to explain it. It's a stop. And then, as he said, negotiate with the people that do own the property, that abandoned, and perhaps we could get them back on the tax roll. But it's a stop.
If we don't have the money, how are we going to do it? That's all that's my question.
We have the money.
The 300,000
We have
to
money.
do Feinstein building?
But if you read it, there's also...
You to knock down the building, it costs way more than that.
You're also going to tie in with a private fund.
And I would like
also.
to see that, the grants.
And like he said, explain it to property owners, maybe something can be worked out where we can acquire the property. But again, looking for an looking to pass this particular, still looking for a motion so we can continue.
I had a public hearing, we never opened public hearing, and we didn't have a person sign
No
up.
one signed up?
For the previous one.
Okay, if Peter wants to step aside, or any other questions of Peter, I guess is the best way to put it.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, the only thing this amendment does is to add the 12 parcels to the redevelopment agency list.
Correct.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that. Funding has already been provided for. If you look in section 11, Councilwoman, on page 7, 11.2, this redevelopment agency shall have the authority to use public and private funding sources to implement action items and support redevelopment. This is exactly what we were saying. I think I would only ask also that Councilwoman Fonseca, that we keep better informed on the details, on the prospects of what we have to do with these parcels. With that, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve.
Mr. Lozay, we have public comment. Jonathan, one more quick.
Yeah, so it's actually not for Peter, but on that note, if someone is interested, I believe the city council could appoint someone to be a member on that board. So anybody who expresses interest, I'd be happy to nominate.
It's
public hearing.
It's made by the council.
We're going to open a public hearing, please.
Lorraine Savard.
Yeah, Lorraine Savard.
Good evening again.
Again. It's going to be over soon. The discussion about the $650,000, I had a question about that too, but it's kind of been answered. Initially, when I ran through the reading of this, on page 4, 6.6, the proposed changes to zoning and/or exception, variance, and waivers. And it says there are no proposed changes to zoning. I, as an objector of fossil fuels, would like to see zoning changed, and I know it's not the redevelopment agency's position here, but to put in some exceptions, something about solar, something about wind, something, you know, it says there are no proposed changes. So you're going to knock down a building and you're going to have another building put up with no specs on solar. And that offends me. That's my comments.
It doesn't exclude it.
It doesn't exclude it, but is there anything in our zoning that says anything about?
That would be a zoning change.
There are no proposed zoning changes for this project.
So this would comply with the existing zone.
The comprehensive plan has already been approved.
This has to comply with the existing zoning ordinance.
It says there are no changes, proposed changes to zoning for this project.
To this project.
Comprehensive plan was approved a number of years ago. I believe every 10 years. Peter can correct me.
What we could do is create tax incentives for people who utilize solar.
Yes, something.
So that would be outside of this, but that's a separate ordinance that we can definitely take.
All right, well.
That's part of the comprehensive plan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lorraine. Is there
Chairman, I
someone
make a
else?
motion.
Mr. Lazier, we have public comment. Anyone else?
No, Mr. President.
Okay, public hearing closed.
Chairman, I make a motion to approve and only request that the further clarification documentation be continually provided to the council.
Second. I have a motion by Councilman Lazier, second by Councilman Council to approve the second and final reading of the ordinance before us. Any further discussion?
To clarify Councilman Lazier's point, are we going to get a plan? Is that what you meant, Councilman?
A plan or a detailed report on each of the parcels, what's going to take place with them, or if there are any progress that they report to us to keep us informed.
So that's conditional, basically, right?
Part of the request.
And we can get that from the city? Can somebody confirm?
Yeah, I'll put it.
You're basically adding an amendment to this ordinance.
It's part of my approval with that stipulation that we be informed on the project's progress.
I think that's a courtesy. I don't think it's part of it.
Yeah.
As council president, it's been brought to my attention that it's within your purview to assign someone to this agency. I think the clearest way to communicate is to do that. So please do that, and then we can get to this problem. That person responsible for going to meetings can come back and report. If you have any questions about it?
Give me time to think, give me a chill. Give me
I would
time to
decline.
think. Well, that's my point. That is my point. If I have...
Well, there seem to be two very interested council
Thank you for making my point, Mr. Picasso. So the gentleman I was going to appoint has just declined. Let's take what's on the floor. Roll call vote.
Councilman Curry?
Yes.
Councilman Acosta?
Point of order, because he tried to amend the way that we're writing this, right? And so we're not, it's not very clear what we're voting on.
Well, I think I cleared that up. That's a common courtesy, Mr. Lazzaro. I don't think it's part of the ordinance that's in front of us, unless you want to change the whole ordinance. This is the second, but common courtesy. And I think Peter,
It's a common courtesy to give us information,
I think
Council
you
President.
can conform to that request.
It's not a courtesy.
To keep us updated. Each one of these properties.
So, we'd be happy to provide an update on the properties. We do that for any situation. You just have to, well, number one, you could ask. Number two, when negotiations happen on different properties, you don't necessarily want that to go out into public because that could change the negotiation value when someone knows that you're going to offer a certain amount. So you just have to be wary of that. But if there's something specific that you're looking for, we'd be happy to provide that.
I just asked for it 10 times. I want to plan every single property.
So I don't think so. To clarify, what we're looking for is for approval to go after these properties. And now, what that means is that there are many different tools in the toolbox that we can use. We don't know which approach. We just want these properties to be meaningful contributors to our city. So that might mean getting the property owner to take care of their property more through different types of demands, or it could be negotiating a purchase of the property, or it could be from the city, it could be negotiating a private purchase. So it's a little bit, respectfully, it's a little bit difficult to say that we have a plan for every single one of those properties when we don't know how the owner is going to respond or what their plans for the property are. And so what this does is allow the redevelopment agency to go ahead and reach out and to have those conversations and see which one of the routes are appropriate. So it's a little bit difficult to come up with a specific plan for each one, because we don't necessarily know how they're going to respond, but we can't have the redevelopment agency reach out until we get approval from you. And then if you have any questions about how that process is going, we'd be happy to provide those updates along the way, because every property is going to be different. And yes, we only have a limited, or the redevelopment agency only has a limited amount of funds to be able to complete various projects, and so maybe, you know, it's difficult to say that we have a plan for every single property. So.
Right, and for me, when we're making a law, it's difficult for me to assign tax dollars to something I don't know where the money's going to.
So the money has already been assigned. So the money is already there. They're not asking for more money. What they're asking for is, okay, we have this list of
properties.
Yeah, so they have a list of properties. They're asking they've identified other properties throughout the city that aren't making the best use, and you discussed some of them. And what we want to do is be able to have those conversations, allow the redevelopment agency to have those conversations, use the budget that they already have, not a new budget, you're not adding any new funds to their budget, but to allow them to have those conversations to figure out how we can get those properties back to being meaningful, contributing properties to our city, instead of, you know, most of them are vacant or abandoned.
Well, 100% agree. And we've been having these conversations since, I believe, 2016 about the properties. Redevelopment agency, they came back to us very few times to give us an update on any of the properties that have been done. So for me, looking at this list, what's the progress on those properties that were there since 2016? And then we're adding new properties to...
Right, so I'll let Peter speak on the specifics of each of those properties, and obviously there's some things that would be more appropriate for probably executive session, but you know, I'll let him speak on that. But in general, that's what we're looking to do.
So to answer the Councilwoman's question about the 9 existing properties in the redevelopment plan and the current status of those, there was an RFP put out for design services for affordable homeownership opportunities at 108 Blackstone Street, 42 Park Street, 663 Pine Street. We only awarded design services for 42 Park Street. I executed the contract on that last week. Met with the architects this morning to discuss plans for putting together schematic designs for that, and we could then shop around to a developer. It's a steeply sloped lot, so it's challenging from a development perspective. We designated the developer of 42 Park Street and 108 Blackstone Street through an RFP process to the Blackstone Valley Community Action Partnership. They pursued funding through the housing bond to construct affordable homeownership opportunities at those properties. That funding was not awarded, so the current status with them is uncertain. 663 Pine Street, we designated development of that to Beck Central Falls Development, and they similarly applied for funding that was not awarded. 12 Street, as I mentioned, is under contract with, along with 229 Washington Street with the developer. 1304 High Street was acquired by the redevelopment agency last year, and we're currently working with the Narragansett Bay Commission on turning that property into a soccer field. And the remaining 4 properties, 1159 Broad Street, 85 Hunt Street, 1154 Broad Street, and 1228 High Street, are part of the Osborne, Sylvania complex. That was the focus of the mayor's attendance at the Mayor's Institute on City Design last year in Tampa, Florida. There are some preliminary results on that that my office is working through and is working on developing a plan for that site, and we will be having more active redevelopment agency efforts.
And actually, sorry, and just more to your point, what we can certainly do is we can have Peter write up a flare for every single one of the properties that are already on there, and what we would hypothetically like to do with the properties that are newly listed, and send that out to the council, if that would, you know, make this process a little bit easier.
So in those 9 properties, is the city currently working on any of them?
The city's working on all of them.
No, but you said some of the funding was declined. So now we're going out for new funding?
Correct.
But are we, like, physically, are we working on any of these properties? Like, is there work being done at any of these properties?
Yeah, like 1304 High Street, a lot of properties we're working on for 3 years. NBC has been physically working on it with the city for the last year, dealing with contamination throughout the year, finishing that project.
So the $300,000 around that was expended, what did that go towards?
I don't have the expenditure sheet in front of me, but the majority of that went to acquire 1304 High Street. So I believe that was $275,000 or $225,000.
Question?
Anyone else? Roll call.
Roll call. Councilman Perry?
Yes.
Councilman Acosta?
Yes.
Councilman Figueroa?
Yes.
Councilman Fonseca?
No.
Councilman Jose?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rivera?
Yes.
Councilman Solano?
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, Peter. Thank you for your time, John. Next.
Ordinance amending Chapter 12, Businesses, Article 10, Tobacco Dealers, parentheses, flavored tobacco. This is first reading.
First reading, public hearing. Anyone in the public? Open the public hearing.
I hope people sign up for
Okay.
the public hearing. Dennis Lane.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm not a member or resident of Central Falls. My name is Dennis Lane. I've been in the industry 44 years. I am the executive director of the Coalition for Responsible Retailing. I represent retailers and trade associations dealing with retailers across New England. And I just want to say that I commend the City Council here in Central Falls for prohibiting the sale of flavored tobacco to young folks under the age of 21, and also commend the City of Central Falls for allowing retailers with the proper tools, IDing, being careful, to sell to folks who are over 21, because the reality is that when you're over 21, you're an adult, and tobacco products are designed for adults, and they're legal products. So I think this is certainly a win-win. We believe that retailers are the gatekeepers for tobacco. Retailers are the ones who ID your kids, they ID the young people. They actually keep tobacco products out of the hands of young people. And I've read your second sheet with your fines for retailers, and we do not support retailers anywhere who do not obey by the rules, and ultimately they get fined. Ultimately they lose their license. Ultimately they can't pay their bills, pay their mortgage. Your retailers, when products are restricted, such as flavored tobacco, retailers make less. Retailers hire from within the neighborhood. I know that I'm a retailer. I hire from my neighborhood. I'm sure that the retailers here in Central Falls and Rhode Island higher from the neighborhood. So the other thing is that I'd just like to suggest, there are purchase and possession laws for most adult products, and I'd like to ask that you consider parity for alcohol, marijuana, and tobacco. It's totally against the law for anyone under 21 to purchase, possess, or use alcohol. It is not against the law for anyone under 21 to purchase, use tobacco. So purchase, use, and possession laws for tobacco, and in the future marijuana, could be critical tools for keeping tobacco out of the hands of young people. And the last thing I'd like to say is, cities and towns that have banned flavors, banned vaping, banning and prohibition doesn't work. Over 100 cities and towns in Massachusetts, I think around 160, have banned flavors, and they banned flavored vaping. And the high schools, the middle schools, they're still having challenges with vaping. And the reason for that is they're not buying these products for the most part in retail stores. They're going to a CVS, a Walgreens, a supermarket. They're buying a prepaid MasterCard Visa. They're going online to the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of unrestricted sites where they can buy flavored tobacco and they can buy vaping products. And the other thing they'll do is they'll stop buying them on the street. So I think this is certainly, it's a win-win for your retailers, it protects young people, and it's a win-win for the community. And I'll answer any questions, but I'd like to say thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Any questions of the gentleman?
Just a question, mostly for the solicitor, based on what the gentleman said. You mentioned wanting to enforce a type of possession law.
Purchase, use, and possession law.
Right, around tobacco. But we can't pass a law that supersedes the state or the federal government. And right now, we passed a law that makes it illegal to purchase tobacco if you're under 21. But it's not illegal to possess alcohol if you're under 21 in the city. And would passing a law like that hold any legal muster, considering that because you can purchase tobacco at 19 in Pawtucket and cross the street, that would essentially make you an offender as soon as you step foot into the city limits? No. Right. So that would, we could pass the law.
All right, I understand. Any other questions? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman?
We have, it's a public hearing.
Bernie Carter?
I was going to ask.
Good evening again.
You could just.
Good evening again. Good evening again. I'm Bernie Carter, 52 Grove Street. I'm here with the tobacco ambassadors. Just for point of order, my youth are going to speak, and we expect them to be able to speak and be respected. Councilman Acosta, your support is not unnoted. We thank you for your support for the last meeting, sticking out for the youth to be able to speak. We appreciate that. Just for clarity, CVS does not sell tobacco products or cigarettes or any of that. So just to let you know, before the youth introduce themselves, just wanted to bring something to your attention. The work that Central Falls is doing is changing the perception of Central Falls. These youth are going to tell you what the work that they've been doing how it has benefited them.
My name is Maisha Cortez. I'm 15 years old and I go to Central Falls High School.
My name is Mark Gillespie. I'm a 9th grader. I go to CFI.
I'm Kyle Cornell, 18, and I go to Central Falls High School.
Hi, my name is Jalen. I'm 15 years old, and I'm a 9th grader at CFI. I'm representing the Tobacco Ambassadors and the Central Falls Youth Prevention Council. I'm here regarding the introducing of the amendment to remove strict fines and reduce the amount of the fine or give no fine.
But that's another ordinance, Mr. Chairman.
Please, Tom.
But he's talking of a different ordinance that we're acting on, Mr. Chairman.
This makes me mad to think that the youth are not important to the councilman. Do you know what it feels like when I say I'm from Central Falls? In the past, families of Central Falls have been subjugated to a lot of negative publicity. When the youth of the city have finally participated, making this community healthier and receive great publicity for the city, this councilman wanted to take the positivity of the local policy given to the youth and families of Central Falls. On April 4th, we participated in the Zombie Walk. Over 200 youth from Rhode Island were part of the planning of this event. The youth of Central Falls had leadership roles. One of the youth spoke in the State House regarding the tobacco work we are doing in Central Falls. Students from South Kingston, Rhode Island have invited us to their communities to guide their tobacco work. To reduce the fines or stop the banning of flavored products would be a disgrace to the youth in this community. Just think about the horrible publicity Central Falls will receive. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Patel? Ms. Patel.
Ms. Patel.
Hello everyone. My name is Monica Patel. I live in 55 Collins Place, Attleboro, Massachusetts. And I own the business Sunshine Market in Central Falls. And like when we have the band and the flavors, mostly all the kids and everybody go to the next one to buy. I like they have the 21-year age, I like that. But if you guys thinking about the flavor, they'll be great for the group. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Anyone else?
No one else, Mr. President.
Does anyone else want to speak?
So I assume we're looking at page 1. I just want to correct one thing. Well, and the ordinance says age 27, it should be age 21.
No.
I just want to clarify that before we get into it, so it won't slip my mind. Thank you.
No, that is correct, Mr. President. It says that if someone looks like their age 27, they should get it. It should be requested by the.
Anyway, hi, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jose Payan from Payan Liquor. The people who don't buy tobacco from me, they go to Pawtucket and they buy the flavor like 4. And over there it's only 18 years old, and over here it's only 21. So why we can sell flavors?
So you feel you're losing business to other cities?
Yeah, because
Pawtucket or neighboring cities?
they cross the line and they buy over there. They told me that it costs.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Anyone else?
Someone else signed up, Mr. President?
That takes us to the council.
Mr. Chairman?
I just want to explain something. Has everyone reviewed what Mr. Lazier has put forth as part of an amendment only? Sir, Mr. Lazier.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to comment on the amendment that was submitted by me. There's been a great deal of discussion and some misinformation. This amendment does not change the ban and restriction on youth, any individual under 21 years old. This remains the same. There is no change in our laws. The restriction on banning flavored tobacco to individuals under 21 is in effect. This amendment strictly adheres to changing and allowing a ban on under 21, but lifting the ban for individuals who are 21 and over. I think it is appropriate. I think it is necessary for our businesses. I think as an adult, an individual should have the right to decide if they want to buy. But I also believe that it's culturally discriminatory for us to ban flavored tobacco to individuals who are over 21. I am an Arab American. My family have been smoking, we call it edgila, but it's a hookah, for generations, for centuries. And the ban on flavored tobacco in Central Falls does not allow Arab Americans or anyone who smokes a hookah to buy flavored tobacco in Central Falls. What is that? Flavored tobacco comes in all different varieties, Mr. Chairman, as we saw, and it comes in flavored, it comes in different configurations, mostly from all over, but from Arab countries also, and not to allow my community to buy flavored tobacco is, I believe, it's not just, it's not right, it's not culturally acceptable to my community who do smoke flavored tobacco. I have never smoked a cigarette in my life. I have never bought a package of cigarettes in my life. But culturally, I have smoked what they call a hookah all my life with my family. I am not allowed to buy tobacco in Central Falls because of this ban. Allowing the city and residents who are an adult, 21 years of age and over, to purchase tobacco products, any type they wish, is, I think, necessary for us as an open and free society. This in no way changes our restriction on minors or changes our restrictions on those who are under 21. I presented this because of a cultural bias I projected that I saw here, but also because of individuals who are in the business community who have spoken to me how this has dramatically hurt their businesses. They accepted the ban on minors. They accepted the ban on individuals 21, under 21. They did not understand why an adult was not allowed to purchase tobacco products. They're allowed to buy alcohol. They're allowed to buy other items that 21-year-olds are allowed to buy. They can buy any other type of tobacco products, but they can't buy a flavored tobacco, which they expressed to me is wrong, and they asked to take action against it. And I have submitted this amendment with the assistance of the solicitor only to address individuals who are 21 years of age and over, and only allowing them to purchase tobacco products for that age group and not for any others. If a minor is purchasing, then they should be taken and action should be taken against any store owner that sells to a minor. But if you are an adult, 21 and over, you should be allowed. And that's the reason why this amendment is submitted, Mr. Chairman. I'll let anyone else speak before I make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone?
Hearing none, I make a motion to approve as amended.
We have a motion by Mr. Lazier to approve the amendment regarding tobacco, flavored tobacco that's in front of us. Is there a second? Hearing none, seeing none, the motion dies.
Mr. Chairman. Time and time again at this council meeting, I present items before the council. I, like other council members, have a cooperation to the council. I have a feeling that we should allow people to discuss and allow action and the better interest of the city to proceed. Mr. Chairman, I can't say strong enough how disappointed I am that I cannot even receive a second on this motion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Next item.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilman Costa.
So I think I'll concede one of Councilman's points. I find this cultural discrimination argument particularly compelling. I actually hadn't seconded because I thought that someone else would, or at least have a conversation. I think, to be fair, we should have to justify our positions and not just sit back without acknowledging why we're making the decisions that we make. And I think the point about prohibition is true. I've never agreed with prohibition as a method for addressing a social problem. I think education is better. Something that I find particularly fascinating about cigarettes is the margin between their cost of production, how much we tax them, and how much retailers make off of them. I think as we think about our state policymakers, we need to talk about where the tax money from cigarettes is going, right? So if a pack of cigarettes costs 30 to 40 cents to produce, and in the state it costs $10 to $12 to buy for the customer, that is a huge tax margin. And where that money is going, I think, is particularly troubling. In the city of Central Falls, I know that when we find folks, that money is supposed to go back to the Tobacco Task Force and back to the police department so that they can enforce the regulations that we put up. I feel for you, Lizzie, and I apologize for not seconding you there, and at least have the conversation. And I think it makes us look like cowards if we don't justify our positions.
Thank you.
I appreciate your comments, Councilman, but I'll allow you to make a motion. I'll second that.
Oh, but just for, can I ask the solicitor, what's the protocol? So what happens if there is, because in case the audience doesn't know, it seems like we're in a weird gray space right now. So there's an ordinance that's on the table, it's in first reading?
Correct.
It doesn't get seconded or at least approved or denied, and what kind of legal limbo are we in now?
The ordinance would be considered continued or tabled.
Not dead.
Well, my comment is this, and I kind of disagree with there's any discrimination here, first of all. And I understand where you're coming from, Mr. Lazier. However, I think we're leaving out the youth. I really was hoping, I didn't ask, it's my fault, for Dr. Fine, who's deeply involved with health, to be here tonight. I don't think, again, you're considering the youth, but I don't think there's discrimination here.
But we're not talking about youth, Mr. Chairman. We're talking about adults.
No, but I'm talking about flavor in general. Supposedly, or what I've read. Wait a minute, Mr. Lazier. You had your say. Your motion died. We did have a presentation by Dr. Fine. And according to him and according to, quote, health experts, this flavored tobacco can lead to further use of tobacco when they become adults. And that's the reason why it's been put in. Not that it matters, but I just heard or read on the news that there are 6 or 7 states that are following suit, and they're banning flavored tobacco. So that's the other side of the argument. Please consider the youth. Even I know what you're saying, but I mean, supposedly this will lead to further problems as they become adults with this flavored tobacco, and that's the reason why I believe we passed it in the first place. And your group has done research.
Mr. President, I would just add, as someone who litigated the flavored tobacco ban in Providence in the First Circuit, that the explosion of hookah into almost every bar, nightclub in Providence is kind of proof that hookah is being used as a gateway drug for young people, where clubs you have to be 18 years old to enter. I do not believe there's a discrimination element here, because the fact that you can smoke hookah that is not flavored and it can still be a cultural celebration. There's no ban on the use of hookah, there's no ban on tobacco that is smoked through a hookah. There's a ban on tobacco products targeting minors to addict them to a toxin for the rest of their life.
Mr. Luzier.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. To your comments, Mr. Chairman, this ordinance takes no action of lifting a ban or encouraging minors to smoke flavored tobacco. I think the confusion that is being presented is not correct. And this ordinance only addresses selling of flavored tobacco to adults, 21 years of age and over, not to minors, not to anyone other than 21 and over. To the solicitor, this ordinance does deny individuals the opportunity to earn a living. It does deny individuals who are of a certain culture who do smoke hookahs or other items of that nature, who have a cultural tradition of that, not allowing them in the city of Central Falls to purchase flavored tobacco when every other type of item that is 21 age and over are allowed. Tobacco, other types of tobacco, alcohol, and other items that are restricted to individuals under 21. Central Falls takes a stand on not selling flavored tobacco to adults. I don't understand that, Mr. Chairman. I don't believe it is fair, and I believe it is culturally discriminatory. I am disappointed with the City Council, but I don't know if it's because anything that I submit never receives a second, or if we are voting as individuals on the item before us. We have another item that's coming up on the agenda next. Let's see where that goes, Mr. Chairman. I'm disappointed, to say the least.
Thank you, Mr. Luzier. Next item.
Ordinance amending Chapter 12, Businesses, Article 10, Tobacco Dealers, parentheses, tobacco fines, first reading, and public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I'll comment on that. Do we have a public hearing first?
We do.
Anyone second?
We have 2 people, Jennifer Wall.
You open the public hearing.
Good evening.
Thank you.
My name is Jennifer Wall. I work for the American Lung Association in Rhode Island. I'm the Director of Public Policy and Health Education. The American Lung Association supports decreasing the sale of tobacco products and consequently encourages the Central Falls City Council to not include the proposed amendment and keep the current progressive penalties as previously written. The previous penalties that are progressive and down hold violators more accountable equitably across the board, and it takes a little bit of the subjectivity out of the decision-making process, and it treats the violators pretty much the same way. It also sends a strong message to Central Falls retailers that Central Falls youth can't be bought and that their health is important. I'm going to take off my lung association hat for a second. I live down the street in Cumberland. I worked for the city of East Providence for about 18 years in prevention. And what I can say in being involved in that work and seeing how they took an alcohol retail license and put it into play and set forth some progressive penalties that left it up to the discretion of the council at times. Sometimes a business would have several violations and they'd get shut down and they would no longer be able to sell alcohol because it was an actual liquor establishment or package store. So it took them completely out of it in that time frame. And other times, the same business on the same violation would come forth and get like a one-day suspension. So that inequitability caused a PR nightmare. Not to mention, it really made a lot of people mad. I'll put my hat back on now, and I needed to just share that. The American Lung Association in Rhode Island urges you not to include the proposed amendments to the ordinance and keep the ordinance as previously written. Questions?
Any questions? Thank you so much. Thank you for your patience.
Erin Welsh? Sorry, is that right?
Good evening, council members. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you today. I'm here to present an evaluation report published by the Rhode Island Department of Health. I'm the program manager for the tobacco control program. In the evaluation results that I'll present to you, the report is called Local Level Tobacco Compliance Monitoring and Observations at the Retail Point of Sale for Central Falls. To provide a little context and memory jog, if you've heard this already, in 2017, Rhode Island was one of 4 states to receive a 2-year competitive grant award from the CDC to evaluate strong point-of-sale policies at the local level. The Blackstone Valley Prevention Coalition and Central Falls Coalition is one of 7 grantees funded by the Rhode Island Department of Health Tobacco Control Program to monitor compliance and strengthen enforcement structures specific to local point-of-sale tobacco policies. Central Falls has, as you know, strong level policies that require a local tobacco retail license, restrict the sale of flavored and discounted tobacco products, and have structures for enforcement. These policy components we often refer to as the Rhode Island Model Tobacco Policy. In addition to the Model Tobacco Policy, Central Falls, with your leadership, has also raised the age of sale of tobacco products from 18 to 21 and implemented restrictions on tobacco retail density. And as Jalal mentioned earlier, one of the youth, he was absolutely right to say that the tremendous efforts and leadership that you've taken to advance tobacco control policies in Central Falls has made you not only a leader in Rhode Island, but nationally. And I'm very proud at every national opportunity that I have to present on the important work that you've done to share the experience that you've had here in Central Falls in protecting you from tobacco. So let's see. I'll provide you some information on the type of surveying that was done by your community members as well as your youth. Your community members surveyed of the 21 stores that are tobacco retailers that are in Central Falls. They were able to complete surveys in 17 of those stores. Of those 17 stores, 71% are convenience stores or small markets. So in the type of survey that was conducted is called STARS. It's a user-friendly tobacco retail observation tool. It's used to just collect information on what's on the store shelves and how it's arranged and how these products are arranged in the stores. The key findings for Central Falls include 100% of stores sampled for the Rhode Island STARS visits were observed to have flavored tobacco products available for sale on the shelves. 6% were observed to have discounted tobacco products available. And of the FDA compliance checks that happen regularly every year, 2 retailers were found to be in violation of allowing youth buys. So of the flavored tobacco products that are available, as I mentioned, they're available right now in 100% of stores, despite the ban. Most stores, 82%, were observed to sell a product that is flavored but is not clearly labeled as flavored on the package, such as a product called King Blue. And 82% of stores were observed to sell clearly labeled cigarillos. And price discounts, as I mentioned, were available at 6% of the stores. This report was issued in March of this year. In our next report, we'll have more specific information on the violations that resulted from these checks, or from compliance checks that are separate than the STARS survey. But we believe that that number was around 5 violations and fines were issued. But I'll have more information in the next report that's coming up next month. There were, as I mentioned, there were 2 FDA youth buy violations and no SINAR violations. That's a survey, that's an enforcement action that the state takes to ensure that cigarettes are not sold to anyone under the age of 18. For a little context and for comparison's sake, the city of Providence, as you likely know, was the first in the state to ban the sale of flavored tobacco products. In 2013, they implemented that ban. A month after the ban was implemented, the city of Providence began a round of enforcement checks and continued over the course of the year. And at the end of the year, there were virtually no flavored tobacco products available on store shelves. Over the past few years, those enforcement checks and issuance of fines has not happened as robustly. And in the most recent survey that was conducted in Providence, it was found that 85% of stores now sell flavored tobacco products versus virtually 0 when they were enacting effective enforcement and fines. So Central Falls has had the Rhode Island model tobacco policy in place since 2015. And enforcement of these policies is complex and can be challenging. This is the first time that Rhode Island tobacco compliance monitoring and reports have been, the results of which have been provided to community members via these reports. And it can tell a lot about what's happening in your in your stores, rooted in data. So I provide this information to you so that you can consider your tobacco-related work with all the data and resources that we have available to us. We'll have the next iteration of this report available by the end of June, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time and for being here, your patience. Anyone have any questions?
Can we get a copy of the report?
Absolutely. Yep, we can email it to you or provide a printed copy.
So,
no one else has said
no one else?
anything.
What is your pleasure? We have an amendment before us, which revolves around the fines.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, our last hearing on tobacco violations, the City Council did not have any alternative on a finding of guilt or even questionable guilt, that they had to impose an automatic $250 fine. It was raised by me and other council members at the time of an attempt to try to lessen the penalty or to give options to the council in that penalty phase. But we were informed by the solicitor that there are no other alternatives, that the offense was a $250 fine. Because of that, Mr. Chairman, I worked with the solicitor to draft an amendment to give the City Council on violations of this tobacco ordinance, as we have heard in the testimony at that time, and also from representative from Rhode Island Department of Health, that there are instances where flavored or tobacco products are being sold that are questionable on, is it really a flavored tobacco or not. Because of all these questions, Mr. Chairman, I firmly believe in the past, and I believe now, the City Council shall always have the discretion to implement fines or penalties on any violation. And with that, I submitted this ordinance amendment, which reads, for a first, second, or subsequent offense, the board may choose to take no action, issue a warning, and/or impose an alternative fine. It still leaves in place a first offense of $250, a second offense of $350, and a $500 fine for each subsequent. But it gives the council or the licensing authority the option to take action that they feel necessary or appropriate in each individual case. Some may be less severe, some may be marginal, some may be at fault completely. But this amendment will allow the council that discretion. With that, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve on first passage this amendment to this ordinance.
We have a motion by Councilman Mazier to approve the amended version of the ordinance regarding fines for violating tobacco laws.
Second for the point of discussion.
We have a second by Councilman Acosta. Under discussion.
So I want to thank the folks who came and shared. This is going to come off as obnoxiously bourgeois and arrogant, so I'm sorry. But I want to make a quick distinction between equity and equality. You said that our policy is currently equitable. I disagree. I think it's actually currently equal. Right? The difference being that equity takes into account context, whereas equality means everything is the same. The problem that the councilman brought up was a problem of a lack of equity. It was full equality. And so when we had everybody coming up, we had to find everybody the same. In fact, somebody in this council disagreed with that. And yet, bringing us back to a point of potential hypocrisy, we ended up having to find everyone the same amount. So we actually have an equal policy. That said, I wonder how this 36-month tabula rasa sunset for consecutive months without a violation compromises that equality, or rather that equity. So is there a legal justification for why we have this 36-month sunset and letting people hit the reset button, Mr. Solicitor? Do we have to have that?
That 36-month sunset was in the original ordinance. It's not in the proposed change, and so I can't speak to why it was originally put in the ordinance, but certainly the council has the prerogative to remove that if you wanted to, or amend it.
And the reason why I bring that up is, as far as a board, we seem to have this deep disagreement between different sectors. And so our tobacco seems to be very equality driven, where everybody gets treated the same. And yet our food and beverage, and in particular our alcohol licenses, when people are having fights outside bars, when people are having issues with their patrons, ends up being very discretionary. So we're playing equity on that end, but we're playing equality on this side. And I think regardless of the decision we make today, we have to get our ordinances in kind of a ducks in a row situation, where we're not allowing for that level of discretion, or we are. And if we are, then we do it for both these enforcements, because alcohol and tobacco seem to kind of go hand in hand in the way we enforce, but it hasn't been the case in our council so far.
Anyone else? Anyone else on the discussion? Roll call vote.
Councilman Terry?
No.
Councilman Acosta?
Yes.
Councilman Figueroa?
Are we voting on to make a change?
Yeah, to change the fines, given an option to, the discretionary option, to take no action, to take less action. We got the fines.
Councilman Fonseca? No. Councilman Zay?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rivera? Councilman Solano? Motion passed, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you once again for the office, absolutely.
So, the ordinance already says the board may impose a fine, so that doesn't mean that we have to impose it.
Right. Right. We actually had that option when we had those three people before us. Yeah, it does say may.
But we couldn't find them guilty without the fine.
First offense.
Well, that's something you could have amended at the time. The way the amendment is written, it gives the council greater flexibility. If the violation is a minor type of violation, but the council wanted to issue a penalty, it can issue a $100 penalty. Now, the way the ordinance is written presently, it may issue a fine, but if you are issuing a fine, you automatically have to issue, we were told, a $250 fine, which I believe is wrong.
Yes.
I believe the other part to that was controversial was that I asked the solicitor during those hearings if we could find someone guilty of a first offense without fining them, and we couldn't. And so it was essentially you were either guilty and we had to fine you, or you were not. You couldn't find somebody guilty and not fine them. So the may actually forced us to take action if we found them guilty. The other thing I'll say is I do hope that we can restart a conversation about this 36 consecutive month sunset period and potentially considering abolishing that so that repeat violators are dealt with.
Chance for you to look at the solicitor on just that, I appreciate it. Next item.
Next item is ordinance amending chapter 14, courts, article 2, municipal court, division 1, generally, introduction.
So introduced.
Ordinance amending chapter 8, animals, article 5, dogs, division 1, generally, introduction.
So introduced.
Next one is resolution of Central Falls City Council in support of the community block grant application.
Just that's a win-win.
I move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Councilwoman Fonseca.
Second.
Second by Councilman Solano. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lizzie?
Mr. Chairman, I respectfully request that before we act on any community development block grant, we receive a copy of what we are applying for. I do not support carte blanche granting approval when we haven't even seen what is to be requested and applied for. So I would ask to table this until we get the application, which I believe they are working on. I know they had a public hearing on it last week, but we do not know what we are applying for, what our priorities are. So, Mr. Chairman, I ask that we table this.
I would just respond to the councilman's comments by saying that Peter Friedrichs did email out a draft of the grant that they submitted. I know you have some email issues, there may be some Russians that can help you out, but yeah, it's out there.
I have not received it. I don't think I have.
It was emailed to you.
Last week.
It wasn't emailed to my email address.
But in the future, things like that should be included in the packet, but it went out, sorry.
I haven't received.
But prior, it should be in the packet.
Generally, block grants are win-win situation.
Point of
It's
reference.
not about being win-win, it's about us knowing what the city's applying to.
Correct.
Because it could be a lose-lose situation.
How can you lose on a block grant?
Because they're priorities for the city.
Correct.
So if you're not applying to those grants that are priority for our residents, then it's a lose-lose situation. Okay.
Anyway,
So
you got a copy, correct?
I did, I asked for it,
All right,
actually.
thank you.
So,
Yes, sir.
Friday at 8:50 a.m.
Okay, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
you got, we are.
Point of correction, Mr. Chairman. I have in the past, and I'll state it again, that I do not receive information only to my authorized locations, to me personally, to a hard copy given to me or sent to me, to my personal email, to be picked up here at City Hall. None of those were done, and I have requested on record here at the meeting, I have requested in person at departments and the mayor's office specifically. I have brought my concern to the solicitor. I have provided documentation of how I am to be contacted, Mr. Chairman. I am not being properly contacted, and I object. I object to the discrimination being shown to me by not abiding by my wishes of contact. I see that there was a public event in my ward this past week, and I wasn't even invited or notified. I'm upset, Mr. Chairman. I have objected to my treatment continually. It's appalling. It's insulting to me and to my constituents that I am being treated this unprofessional and with no courtesy whatsoever as a councilman. I wish the administration would upgrade and update their records on notification, and also that the city clerk provide my proper notice to individuals who are requesting it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Question?
All those, I'm still on resolution.
Right. The call the question, as long as it's seconded,
Yeah, go ahead.
you can vote at any time.
Yes, we can.
Yep.
Right, let's do it.
You all set? You go. Step it up. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Nays?
Nay. Not provided the documentation as requested. Cannot vote on something I haven't seen.
Next item.
Resolution of the Central Falls City Council supporting HIV awareness in Central Falls.
Motion to approve the resolution supporting HIV awareness in Central Falls.
Motion by Councilman Cox, seconded by Councilwoman Fonseca and Councilman Solano. Any discussion on the resolution? Here.
June 27.
27. Thank you. Hearing none. Nothing further. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Resolution of the Central Falls City Council proclaiming May 26th as Michelle Norris Day.
Motion to approve the resolution proclaiming
by
May 26th, Michelle Norris Day.
Second by Councilman Solano. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. So approved. Thank you. Sure, absolutely.
So this case is particularly sensitive to Central Falls. And I thought it would be important to recognize Michelle Norris for having a day in Central Falls. So I asked that if we could send a formal letter or citation to the family, I would appreciate that, and council would as well.
That will be done. Check it up. As soon as we get.
Okay, thanks. I think it was under the high school. One of the kids. Who's that?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Al Romano?
On the resolution from Michelle Norris. Mr. Chairman, I'm a lifelong friend of the family. I used to know Michelle Norris. I'm with the family every week. St. Basil's Church will be honoring the memory of Michelle Norris on her 40th or 30th anniversary at a mass of remembrance. I believe it is not this Sunday, next Sunday. The family, longtime friends, parishioners of St. Basil's, and they have gone through a tremendous ordeal, and it's not over yet. I think the family would appreciate the resolution that you submitted, Councilwoman Fonseca, and I'll inform them also of the council's wishes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next, thank you.
Resolution supporting House Bill 8139 and Senate Bill 818 relating to receivership costs.
I just want to ask the solicitor just to, the reason why he asked me to actually present this. Could you speak on that briefly regarding receivership, the bills that we were billed for that we don't feel we deserve?
Mr. President, this is a City Council resolution supporting legislation by Representative Maldonado and Senator Crowley in regards to the receivership tab that the state has charged the City of Central Falls. I believe someone earlier, it may have been Ms. Poulin, pointed out that the state continues to charge the city a debt for the state receivership that is not declining as fast as it should be if payments are being made. And based on what I can see in this legislation, it seems that Representative Maldonado and Senator Crowley are trying to narrow the scope of what the city owes the state. And so the city would only owe the state a total of $2.4 million in total receivership expenses. Those expenses, as of the current moment, have been paid to state. So if this legislation passes, the city will owe the state no more debt for the cost of receivership.
Second.
A motion approved by Councilman Solano, seconded by Councilwoman Fonseca. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think when the auditor was here, and I know I have met with the Finance Department and have addressed the issue with the former AFO of a true accounting of the cost to the state. We have seen various versions of it. This version dedicating that the city does not owe any further money is something that is supported, acceptable to me. But I think we still need to get a handle on what are the figures. We heard from Mr. Morganis when he was here, different figures and how one was going to be wiped out by another, and the figures never went down. I support the resolution, but I would still like to get an accounting of where we are with the state and what our financial records show. Thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Chair votes aye. Nays, hearing none, seeing none, ayes have it. We will get that out quickly. Next item.
Next resolution of Central Falls City Council in condolences and congratulations. We have several, as you saw by the neighbor presentations to you signed. One was for Ms. Melissa Gallego. It was introduced by Councilman Rivera for her work in the city as a young adult and for organizing the Peace Walk, and asking congratulations for graduating from Rhode Island College this past weekend. And we have several introduced by Councilman Lozea. And we have all in the keys of 2018 Central Falls Warrior Athletics Hall of Fame. And with the names, I'll read them again. Joseph Osidiak, Louis Tager, Gail Turgeon, Kelly.
Gail Turgeon, there's another name to it. They think it was a correction, Gail Turgeon, something else.
Kelly Yancey, that's what I copied from the email. Michael Mitchell, Jason Gagnon, Carlos Lapina, Coach Nick Bagliaro, Coach Bob Marchant, and Lifetime Warrior Award to Bolette Barton. 2015 State Championship Central Falls High School football team. 2005 Central Falls High School champion football coaches. Head coach Maurice Jackson, assistant coach Anthony Picacelli, and assistant coach Chef LaPierre, and assistant coach Wes Pennington. Then we have congratulating and welcoming Dionysius John Kewak, Archbishop and Patriarchal Vicar of the Archdiocese of the Syriac Orthodox Church, who will be arriving on June 10th. And congratulations to anniversary on his ordination, and that of congratulating Reverend Father Alan Shelton and his wife, Hassan Saliba Shelton, on being naturalized as United States citizens. Congratulating former Central Falls Police Officer Derek Lavasser on his success in video investigating reporting on national broadcast television. Congratulating Chief Patrick T. Foley on his retirement as Chief of the Douglas, Massachusetts Police Department after 22 years at his retirement testimonial on May 31st, 2018. And as his appointment as Chief of the Willingston, Vermont Police Department. Those are the condolences and congratulations.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like, first of all, to make a motion to approve collectively.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Zia to approve condolences and resolution as read. We have seconded by Mr. Costa.
Mr. Chairman, under discussion. Mr. Chairman, I submitted some of these a month or two ago. They were all submitted prior to the agenda. I failed to understand, Mr. Chairman, why every ordinance, resolution, or condolence that I submit are never included on the agenda, Mr. Chairman. They are listed in the category of resolutions of Central Falls City Council and condolences and congratulations, but I see other resolutions are listed. Mr. Chairman, that is wrong. Any submission by a council member should be included on the agenda. I object to not listing resolutions or ordinances. They should all be listed individually. It's part of our record. I went to the City Hall to get a copy of what these were, but they were not available. They were still being worked on, and they weren't available last month either. Mr. Chairman, when something is submitted, everything should be listed on the agenda. So we know what we are voting on, and we know, the public knows what is on the agenda or what is going to be acted on. I hope this can be corrected because this has been going on since last year, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Let me ask you this, everything we signed tonight,
Yep.
were all yours there?
I'll have to check my records, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure.
I believe they were. And by the way, did everyone finish signing? There was tons of them. Thank, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Nays, hearing none, seeing none, ayes have it. Thank you.
We have resolutions of condolences, Mr. President. First to introduce by Councilman Perry, Abraham Hanna, who passed away on May 14th. And Josephine Kika Alves passed away on May 5th. Councilman Jose has following names by introduction: Norman Odette, passed away on April 21st. Samuel Dempsey, passed away on April 24th. John J. Solomon Sr. passed away on April 26th. Robert Langley on April 26th as well. John Cummings passed away on April 28th. Gregory Hanna on May 1st. Jean Dow passed away on May 2nd. Robert Monroe Sr. passed away on May 6th. And Mr. John J. McLaughlin Jr. passed away on May 7th.
Mr. Chairman, I would approve collectively those additions.
Every motion by Councilman Zinn, second by Councilman Figueroa, or Councilman Costa. Approved as read. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Chair votes aye. Nays,
Just
ayes have it.
for information, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Morrow, Robert Morrow, served the city of Central Falls as a tax assessor. Ann Pitkopoulos served the city in the finance office for many years. And everyone else that are listed there have connections to us or former residents. Chief Patrick Foley, his wife, used to be the human resource director here. He is just retiring as chief of the Douglas Police Department and is accepting a job in Vermont, Williston, Vermont, as a new chief up there, a Pawtucket resident, and used to serve the city of Central Falls. All the ones I submit, Mr. Chairman, are connected to residents. Abraham Hanna is the brother of Sarah Peters, whose husband owned the hobby shop on Valley Street. Peters family.
Thank you. Next item.
Hearing in consideration of claims, we have two in front of you. The first one is by Mr. Frank Rodriguez, a member of our police force, who is address listed as 160 Illinois, Illinois Street, for alleged damage to personal property sustained on April 16, 2002.
Has everyone read the report and seen the pictures? Unfortunately, basketball hoop at the back of the police station, we had all that wind many times. In one particular time, the basketball hoop, portable one, fell on his own private car. Do you want to go? Do you want to go to executive session? Sure. Now
I need a motion. Someone make a motion.
Can we jump to the second one?
Both of them. I move to enter executive session.
Second. Have motion to go to executive session.
No, it's first. No, for Wisconsin. We go in here and do that.
Executive session.
I have to go.
You have to stand.
Yes, you have to go. Today, I know, but I want to go. Sometimes you can't find a place to park, so. I have to find. I'm still having trouble doing it like that.
Hello, how are you?
I had back surgery in January. A year ago. A year ago, February. No, it's spinal stenosis. 2 hours.
6 screws in his face. And I had February of
Cataract surgery.
Oh, I had cataract surgery. I had that too about 4 years ago. That was the best thing that ever happened. No?
My eyes keep draining.
No. Mine's
There's this thing going on.
Oh.
You know, it makes it okay.
Oh, wow.
When I did get glasses.
See, I don't have to wear glasses. Mine were very bad.
Before I got cataracts. So
Yeah, mine
back
too.
to what they were.
But what I did was when I used to use contacts. And my contacts, this eye is for close and that eye is for distance. So when I did the cataracts, I had one for distance, one for far. So if I closed this eye, I could read. If I look that way, that's my distance eye. When you put them together, they work together. So it's working pretty good for me. I've been lucky.
And this is, forget that surgery.
Yeah, I had that.
It
2
took
knee
me 5 or
operations.
6
2 knees, 2 knees, the back and
6
eyes.
years to decide on cataracts.
Oh, did it?
Yes. Yes. Well, maybe yes.
I'll tell you though, it was really awakening because the first one was this eye, and when I went out in the yard, I could just see everything so clear. Oh my God, it was so clear. It was like when I first looked at it, the skies and the trees and the flowers were so bright. So to me, mine was very successful. I'm glad I did it, you know.
I've got drainage.
Oh, that's tough.
You know, he said, you can fix this blurring in this eye, you know, and in his office, some place.
Oh. They can do amazing things. No, I'm very fortunate because that's good. And then February of last year I had the right knee, and then in May of last year I had the other knee.
And those are okay.
No, they were all right. Yeah.
They're all right, better than the pain you had.
Oh, yeah, they're good. It's the back more than anything because it's still got some pain through the lower. But the sciatic is one, and that was the worst.
Yes.
Oh my God.
That goes right down to your.
It goes all the way down your butt and down to your ankles. Yeah, I had both sides. So that really helped. Yeah, that helped.
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
a knee, I just had a knee replacement.
I have two knees, the back,
I just had.
eyes.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
So,
I don't want no surgery. No surgery.
Oh, no surgery?
Yeah.
No surgery. No. It took me 13 days to get over a C-section surgery.
And I have rheumatoid.
And I was young.
And I have rheumatoid arthritis. I do shots once a month for the rheumatoid.
They take one and they touch you. Oh,
So, it's still got up there. I'm getting there. You just keep going. You just got to keep going.
Of course, yes. Have your coffee in the morning. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to
You
make
can
it.
fight once in a while.
Oh, I'll take care.
Yeah, we'll see you, Lorraine. Take care. You're not going to Y, Lorraine, anymore?
I'm going to start again.
Yeah.
You know, I went after I had the surgery.
Yeah.
I went to their exercise room.
Yeah.
They have a nice one.
They do. They have
That's
some real.
really
No, they have quite some programs there. Yeah.
Yes.
Senior centers have got some good ones too. Lincoln's got a good program. Cumberland has too. My cousin goes to Cumberland. She does a yoga class and a Zumba class, I think.
Yeah, I was doing yoga at the Lincoln Center.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Yeah, they do. They have some good programming.
I loved it. It was Friday at 10 o'clock. I always have something to do.
Well, you have to plan around.
Yes.
I plan those in first, and then I plan around it.
Yes,
Everything else comes later.
Yes.
You know,
That's what happens.
once in a while I get stuck.
Yeah.
But I try to go 3 days a week at least.
Yes, I was going.
And I feel better when I go.
I used to.
So
you
much
know,
better. Yeah.
The day that I went, I just felt so
Oh, you do.
good.
I feel so much better.
Yeah.
I've been doing two days a week in physical therapy. This week it's one, so I'm kind of.
Yeah.
tapering off.
Yes, yes.
Just have to find something else to fill that slot. We'll see it.
Maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe. So how you doing, Josh?
Doing all right.
Doing all right? Good. Just looking for an agenda.
These are all the ones that have already been heard.
Yeah, I
Actually, all of
just,
them have been heard.
I just want this. It's the agenda. Still here? Die hard too, aren't you? The schools must be winding down now, huh?
Somewhat.
May, June, when do you get out of school?
June 25th.
Well, certainly quite a ways to go yet. A month and a half. It's because of all those snow
Like pretty
days.
fast now.
Yeah, but it's all those snow days you guys had.
Yeah. I don't even get summer vacation. Because once we go out summer vacation from high school, I jump right into college.
We're going to college right away.
I ain't even graduated yet. I don't know about yet. But I'm
Taking college classes?
College, yeah.
Well, that's good. You'll be ahead.
Yeah.
That's good. It's good you can do it. Well, if you take a course in the summer, that's one less course you'll have to do. Because are they accelerated? Are they like double days?
Double days.
Yeah. When I went back and I got my master's, that's what I did.
Yeah, so they're double days and I'm going to be living on campus.
Where you going?
CCNY.
That's good. I know a girl graduating, she's a little friend of mine, she's graduating from CCRI Thursday. She's so excited.
Wow.
She is just so excited. And she put a lot of effort into it, you know, so.
Okay.
Good kid.
What was she studying for?
She's studying for business. Business. Yeah, I think it's business. Yeah, so it's Thursday. Thursday's graduation. And she works at the Y on the desk down at McCall. So she's going to be there Wednesday, and then she's going to work on Friday.
What's her
Caitlin? Do you know Caitlin?
Yep. I know her.
She's a sweetheart.
I know her very well.
Really? Yeah, she's a real nice girl.
She is.
Yeah, so she was telling me I was asking, she's so excited.
Lydia, huh? Nothing
Your
from Lynn?
phone? Oh, Sonia, your phone?
Thank you. Right? You didn't get anything from Lynn?
I was at the White.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I'll be right in front of two different doors where the main office is. Just if you see me, I'll just.
You have to go up those big stairs?
Yeah, I already did.
We have looked for a motion to come out of executive session.
I moved to come out of executive session.
Motion by Councilman Fonseca, seconded by Councilman Solano to come out of executive session. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Chair votes aye. Nays, ayes have it. We're out of executive session. And now looking for a motion on the claims. First claim is a motion to table.
Don't they decide when you could get into?
Motion to table by Councilwoman Rivera, seconded by Councilman Figueroa and Councilwoman Fonseca to place the first claim, table first claim. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Chair votes aye. Nays, hearing and seeing that, ayes have it. Motion on the second to, I believe, move to the trust.
Motion to refer claim Daniel Summer representing Rosa Rodriguez to the Rhode Island Interlocal Trust.
Second motion to move to the trust by Councilman Rosales, second by Councilman Costa. Move to the trust. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Chair votes aye. Nays. Hearing none, seeing none. Ayes have it. Thank you. Next item.
Election of special constable license pursuant to Rhode General Law 45-16-8. This is Marlene Montano Arancia. She is, it's a renewal. She's a true officer at the Central Falls School District.
Motion to approve. Motion approved by Councilman Costa, second by Councilman Solano. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Nays. Ayes have it.
Good and welcome, Mr. President.
The only ayes have, we, June 9th at James Park, we have a nice little event in the park for the kids, but we're also in conjunction with Jessica Varga and Diane, we're going to hopefully recruit foster parents. Something to think about. You got between now and June 9th to think about becoming a foster parent. It's going to be a fun day in the park, but the purpose is certainly going to focus on foster parenting. Anyone else?
Yeah, President. On the board of welfare, I would like to congratulate Councilwoman Maria Rivera for organizing May 5th summer spring fashion show for the senior for a minor.
Cinco de Mayo.
And it was Cinco de Mayo, May 5th. It was a great event and all the
I
I apologize, we couldn't be there, but I want to congratulate Joan. I wasn't there, but the everything coming out of the manor was that she stole the show. So congratulations, Gene, on stealing the fashion show. There's an agent waiting outside from New York if you're interested.
We have another one on the 24th from 4 to 6 at Wilfred Manor.
That's
all invited.
24.
June 24th.
I will escort you rather than Franklin. How's that?
Mr. President.
Mr. Euro.
Oh, God, just, so, 4 things. The first is I want to congratulate and thank Councilwoman Fonseca for putting together the summer activities fair for all the local Central Falls youth. That took place actually also on May 5th, the morning of May 5th. It was a successful event. We had a variety of organizations represented, and it was a great recruitment tool. The second is to announce, or to remind everybody that tomorrow the mayor will be delivering his budget address at Central Falls High School, I believe at 7?
Yep. 7 p.m.
Yep. And to ride off that and to address some of the concerns that have been brought up during public comment, we haven't settled on the date yet, but Councilwoman Rivera and I will be hosting a open office hours kind of informal session where once the budget is released, we will allow folks to come, ask questions, look at the budget, talk to us. We're still selecting the date and the site for that, but we will announce that at our next council meeting. And finally,
I will volunteer for that also.
we can't have too many of us, so we can find ways to coordinate it so that we do it at different times.
As long as you have on the floor.
Right. The last thing is I have a participatory budgeting ordinance that will be submitted in our next agenda. The draft is already out. It includes having a committee of local stakeholders comprised mainly of folks in the nonprofit area that represent the various stakeholder groups in our community to provide oversight and planning for our city's budget and a 5-year plan. And so I'll be submitting that in our next agenda, and I look forward to folks' feedback on that ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, just a point of order or question of the solicitor. Councilman Acosta just mentioned the mayor's introduction of a budget ordinance. I haven't received anything on that, so I assume there is no official council meeting tomorrow. We have not been notified.
No, we attend the budget address, Mr. Mazzari.
So there's
it's his budget, his address.
It is a council meeting though.
No, it is. It's a budget address.
Every year we get an agenda as a council.
And you haven't been
He
notified.
presents the budget to the council.
And there's more than 4 of us.
There's no official.
So what are you saying?
He doesn't listen. How do you
It was correctly posted to the Secretary of State's website last week.
But nothing was sent up. What
We've
was
never
sent up?
received any
I can't
information.
speak to that.
No, that was completely my oversight. There was no,
It's on the city secretary.
it was one of those where
Sent to the
there was no
council.
backup. It's true. I did not send it.
No, I know, but John was talking, so.
So yes, since the chief of staff had sent the invitation to the council, we created the agenda. There was no backup to go with it. I, my oversight that I did not send the agenda to the council. That is correct.
Well, we haven't received anything.
From me, no.
You sent something in an email?
I didn't.
Okay, I haven't received, and Josh, I informed you.
Okay.
Last week I was here to pick up any documents. I received nothing. Officially, Mr. Chairman, the get-together tomorrow is not an official meeting. I'm putting that on record right now, Mr. Chairman, that it is not a city council meeting, and any more than 4 council members present is a violation of the open meetings.
Can the solicitor clarify?
I personally checked the link on the Secretary of State's website earlier today for the meeting being posted tomorrow, and it was correctly posted pursuant to state law. As such, a council meeting that happens tomorrow night was posted in accordance with the Open Meetings Act and can be held. Now, at the same time, the council has rules that speak to paper notice around circulation of paperwork amongst its members. The council can remedy that issue however it may choose, but it does not impact the state law. The state law requires notice. The notice was given, so under state law, the meeting's valid. But under your rules, you may choose a different course.
Can everyone attend?
Yes. Yeah,
I sent an email.
I think we all can attend. The thing is, I mean, it's not a meeting that we're gonna speak out. We're gonna receive, the mayor gonna address his budget.
To us, though, he's presenting his budget to the city council, right? So just like any other agenda, it should have been sent out, like any other council meeting. So I understand Tom's frustration because for him, if he didn't get the Facebook invite, that's how I learned about Facebook, and Josh sent something out, but.
They send it through an email.
Okay, but it wasn't done the right way, Franklin. So we just need to do things the right way. So if one of us couldn't attend, and or two, we could reschedule it. But if everyone can attend, I say let's keep it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr.
Mr. Chairman, I do get the notice from the Secretary of State's office, and there was no notice that I received that presentation of the mayor's budget is online and sent officially. We are looking at an $18, $19 million budget, Mr. Chairman. We shouldn't jeopardize the legality of it by presenting it as an illegal meeting. I believe it's an illegal or improper meeting because no notice was sent out to the council. You can post it, but notice has to go out to the members of the council. I just think it's unfortunate and an error, but I do not think the meeting tomorrow, and technically it is a meeting because it's called for the city council, is a legal meeting, Mr. Chairman.
What about if we are all able to attend? Like we can agree that it wasn't posted the way we weren't notified the way we were supposed to be notified.
I have.
But if we can all come.
Josh, you said invite you guys. It's our meeting. It's our council meeting.
So I'd be happy to speak a little bit on that if I'm able to.
This is how I invite you to the budget. It's our meeting. You can't say I invite you to the meeting. It's our meeting.
So I just want to share a few points. First, at the last council meeting, council president mentioned that the meeting would likely be on May 15th, which is the last day that the mayor has to introduce his budget to the council. The Secretary of State's website does have the agenda properly posted. according to state regulations. I understand, as the city solicitor had clarified, that maybe some council rules might have been different, but I also invited the council from the mayor's perspective, and that's correct, from the mayor's perspective, invited you to the mayor's budget introduction, and that was from the mayor's perspective. Yes, I wasn't trying to post a meeting. I was just informing you this date, this time, this location had been selected, and council president had mentioned at the last council meeting that it would likely be on the 15th. So just want to throw those points out there. And if I have the Secretary of State's website, and it shows that the meeting was properly posted according to.
It is?
Yes, sir. I'd be happy to show you.
Sure, I'd like to take a look, because I haven't found it or been sent it.
Yeah,
But-
I usually get a copy from the Secretary of State's office, and I did not get a copy from the Secretary of State's office. What I saw was the Facebook posting, and that was ambiguous and confusing because it had 2 different dates and it had 2 different places.
And all the
So
players,
it is
Josh,
here, so I'll just-
I didn't get invited.
You did get invited, but
No, I
we
didn't.
won't get into
You
how how
didn't
notified.
invite me because you
But-
don't invite me properly.
Council President, I've also asked for a list of all the dates for the budget hearings. Right now, with
They're
my,
not complete.
well, it needs to be complete by tomorrow.
Councilwoman, I
because
sent out an email last week that you have yet to respond.
I responded to you.
I don't have a response.
Did I
Sorry, I
respond?
don't have a response, no.
But I responded,
I didn't get
and I
an
gave
email.
the mayor all my dates already for what dates I can meet. Between May and June is, for us to meet 4 times, we have to meet like 4 other times, right? Or 5 maybe, depending on the budget hearings. We need those dates, we need to know. We have busy schedules, and if we don't have those dates by tomorrow, we're probably not gonna attend all of them.
You already,
And that's
does it have to be a council meeting? No.
Yes.
It's a council
The legal
meeting.
council meeting has been posted properly.
It's been posted, the only oversight here was sending the agenda.
The confusion probably was that typically with an agenda packet, you have underlying documents, and because there are no underlying documents, because the documents will be officially transmitted tomorrow, the clerk probably,
There is
having
no-
no
Exactly.
documents to transmit.
There's no notice of meeting, time, place, location, what's to be presented. There is
Yeah, it's all
none
on
for
the
that.
Secretary of State's website.
It was never presented to us.
All right.
48
Are you
hours
able to come
prior.
tomorrow? Because it seems like everybody else can.
So will we get a list of all the dates?
I have, so I sent out an email to everyone last week. I have received 2 responses to date. I was hoping that by the end of tonight, I was waiting for everyone to finish, and I was gonna ask the council president for permission to speak during this session to request a response from all of you. My email asked for the dates for the budget workshops, and from then, the dates for the public hearings would come out as well. So that is all coming through. If you could respond to me now, or maybe after the meeting is over, we can resolve that very quickly. I left the request open-ended so that everyone could propose their availability. And I would absolutely love to close out this project since it started last Thursday.
You want to do that to the chairman?
Whatever works for the council.
Soon as, it's on record.
Right.
You have mine, correct?
You have mine. I went through it today.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I can send you everything for my personal.
You have mine.
I just forwarded it. I sent it upstairs.
In all due respect, I haven't received anything, and I can't respond until I receive something. Again,
Can I say it now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what to respond to. Send me,
Your availability for workshops of the week of May 20th.
I have to check. I don't know.
Check now.
I can't check now. I have other calendar at home. I don't know. I've never been notified. You know, it's frustrating when I tell you how to notify me. I go to City Hall, I'm in an office, I ask, is there anything, do you have anything for me? And I receive no response. I receive no documents, I receive no paperwork of things that you're sending out, which I tell the office and I told the administration, give me a hard copy. and you continue, or this administration continues to fail to provide any documentation. It expects me to understand what's going on and to be acquiescent on your actions, and it's wrong. The meeting tomorrow was no notice sent out to the council. It's illegal meeting in my eyes. I'm notifying the council.
Councilman Salam? Would you like to send me your response by email or do it right now?
The week of the 21st?
Yes, yes, sir. If you'd like to respond, I can respond by email if you'd like, if that works best.
Today, we're gonna start Zoom by the city on Tuesdays. Changing the subject of anything. Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Motion to
Wait, I
adjourn.
have one more.
Oh.
So,
Did you give your dates down?
high school honors night is Wednesday, May 30th, 6 to 8 at Madera, and graduation is June 8th, 6 to 8 at Rhode Island College. And I think you guys got letters, or should you
Yes,
get
I did,
letters?
and I appreciate that, and I responded.
No, not those events that I sent you.
Oh, the honors night and the
Yeah.
graduation, they received notification properly.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Did you give your dates in? You
I
wanted
keep
to?
it on Zoom.
20 minutes. You said you wanted to clear it up. It's all clear. Stand adjourned at 9:03.
That's what I'm looking
Sí, tiene que ser el tercero.
Hacer la reunión.
Sí, ok, listo.